Now, obviously, the witches track him down because the 13 are awesome. And they're at this ravine with these like decrepit bridges. Rowan gets shot in the shoulder by one of the 13. And it is not looking good. So the girls decide to have a boss fight. They let everyone else go. They're like, okay, you guys go over that side of the ravine. Okay, we're gonna do Aelin v Manon. And it's so good. Honestly, best fight I've ever read. It is truly epic. And what's brilliant is you've got Adian and Asterin for each team being like, tuck me in, let me come help. And the girls are like, no, back off. It's only prima ballerinas dancing on this dance floor, bitches. And their fight is so epic, right? The world about it is like crumbling. We're in this like decrepit cousin, it is falling down. The world is getting destroyed around them. There's a great part where, like, obviously they've both got these amazing swords, right? So they're doing this really cool sword battle. There's a moment where Aelin manages to get the sword off of Manon, because obviously Aelin is a great sword fighter, and Manon's like, oh, no, you've disarmed me. Unsheathes claws. And Aelin's like, what the? So good. But the landscape around them is proving a disadvantage. And as one bit collapses that Manon's on, she's literally about to fall into the ravine. And Aelin hears Asterin from the other side scream. And Aelin recognizes that's the scream of someone who is about to watch someone they love die. Aelin hears that sound from Asterin and she empathizes. She realizes that while Manon seems like this really scary monster, someone loves her. Like, there must be something about this monster that someone else can love. And so without even really thinking about it, Aelin grabs her. Aelin saves Manon's life. He literally carries her over this rope bridge, and now Manon owes Aelin a life debt. It's really symbolic. It's so well done. It's so tense. It has such good payoff. Now, Rowan is really not in good shape. As amazing as Rowan is, as brilliant as he is, an arrow from one of the 13 has properly messed him up. So they take him to the only healer they can find, which is like a midwife who works on Nezrin's father's farm. And Chaol apologizes to Aelin because if he hadn't gone after Dorian, none of this would have happened. They would have never had their run-in with the 13, and Rowan wouldn't be hurt. Now, when Manon is back amongst the royal group, she's back with the King of Ardland, her grandmother, etc. She lies and's like, oh yeah, we were attacked, but we killed them all. We're seeing some allegiances maybe shift a little bit. Manon's not following the rules as she once did. Now, she asks the king about the weapons that her grandmother has presented that are built. There are these massive amplification towers. And she asks, are you going to be using the Valg shadow power with them? And the answer's iffy. Not quite. Not quite sure what these magic amplifying towers are going to be used for. But it's going to be bad. And if it's worse than using the shadow fire... not good at all. Now, Alid's evil Uncle Vernon captures her while all of the witches are away. Manon's not there to protect her right now. He's figured out that she's got some witch blood and that she's obviously getting pulled into the witchy shenanigans, and he wants her back under his thumb. So he locks her in a cell. Now, Duke Perrington summons Manon to him when she returns to the tower at Morath, and she reads reports from the kingdoms and finds out that Aelin and Dorian are actually friends, and figures out that, wow, Aelin might have actually been there to rescue Dorian, who... let's just say Manon's a little bit impressed by. And since the Duke answered the questions that she asked him and provided her with that info, he demands another group of witches to impregnate. Now, at this point, we get one of the saddest little anecdotes shared in the entire series. It's why it's the best book, where Asterin asks to speak to Manon in private. And she says, look, Manon, I am worried about the path you're on. I need to speak to you about our grandmother and something that happened to me many, many years ago that you are not currently aware of. And Asterin admits that back in the past, she fell in love with a human man and she got pregnant. She managed to carry the baby full term, which is rare for witches. It's hard for witches to have babies, hence why all this experimentation with the Valg is going on. But the baby daughter was stillborn. Their grandmother was so furious that Asterin had failed to provide a new member of the Black Peak ruling family, that she burnt the baby's carcass and carved Astrid's stomach. Left Astrid absolutely heartbroken. Her grandmother turned her back on her. She lost her baby and she never went back. Man who fell in love with her. And he'd build on this little house and she'd fly over every few years and he'd still be waiting for her to return. And then he died. He never got to see her again. Oh no, I don't want to cry again in these videos, but yeah, that farmer, he waited for her. She was the love of his life and he was the love of her life, and she never got to be with him because of the awful, awful way witches are and the way that they treat each other. And Astrid begs Manon, like, please do not let any more of our sisters be impregnated by this way. Our grandmother's evil. I've never wanted to admit this to you before, Manon, but she is a wicked, evil woman, and I don't want you to become like that. Manon's like, oh, damn it, babe, no. Oh, as you would be if your best friend was like, yeah, this really, really bad thing happened to me. You're like, oh no. But as they're talking, Manon, she feels this tug. She has this realization. She's like, Astrid, okay, this is a big problem, but I've just thought of another thing that may or may not be life or death that we need to go sort out. So the two of them run off. Okay, they sneak away. And guess where they've gone? Guess where they're going? Rifthold. Now we go over to my girl, Lysandra, and she's like, Aelin, thank you so much for coming and saving me. And Aelin's like, babe, I've got another surprise for you. You're now a free woman. And it turns out Aelin has all of the paperwork. Lysandra and Evangeline are free of their indentured servitude. Neither of them has to be a professional courtesan anymore. Aelin's literally freed them. Meanwhile, Rowan is still recovering from his injury and he smells Lorcan up on the roof because that man will not back off. So Rowan goes up to the roof to speak to Lorcan, and Lorcan says, hey, look, I will trade this magic ring that protects the wearer from Valg mind control for the Amulet of Orinth. I want that weird key. And Rowan says, okay, I'll make the trade. And Lorcan leaves. You're thinking, no, Rowan, what the hell? But he comes back in and we find out that he and Aelin have basically given Lorcan a dud. He does not have the real Amulet of Orinth. He does not have the real weird key. And Aelin's like, hey, just so you know, Nezrin, she's totally into you. Like, you should tap that. Nezrin's cool. Nezrin's wicked. Kael and Nezrin head out later that night. They're making battle plans. Nezrin actually leads him into this like city temple, and she talks to him about the southern continent, the one that is below even Elwë, where her father's from. And she talks about how they have the best healers in the entire world down there. And, you know, the two of them like, hopefully there'll be a future for us where we can go and see all these amazing things. Aelin and Rowan have their first kiss before they all plan to go into battle down in Rifthold. They're going to go and they're going to blow stuff up. So, my OTP. As they are about to go, Aelin's getting ready in the morning. She goes for a wander around Rifthold. And what does she see? A message written all over the city. Okay, it's written multiple times. It's written everywhere. That is addressed to Witch Killer. And it turns out Manon flew to Rifthold, brought Astrid with her, and she's written a message. Because Manon was thinking, wait, Aelin's friends with Dorian. I've just met Dorian. Dorian, who's meant to be being possessed by a Valg demon. But he had a lot more riz than anyone else I've met who's possessed by a demon. And so Manon's like, I should probably let Aelin know. As part of this, like, I owe her a life debt that Dorian is still in there. The demon doesn't have full possession of him because Aelin might not know this. So Manon's like, left of the basic witch killer, I'm still alive. Aelin's like, oh no, Dorian's still trapped with the Valk. Manon basically saves Dorian's life. It's really cool. So Rowan and Adian carry an urn full of this hellfire explosive through the cities below the city, in the catacombs, to the castle. And they realize while they're down there that Lorcan kind of lied to them when he said, I killed all of the weird hounds, all of these monsters down the sewers. That's not true. Some of them are definitely there waiting to attack. Meanwhile, Aelin leads Kael through the city as a prisoner because he's a wanted man for trying to kill the king during the kerfuffle at the end of the previous book. When they get to the castle, the king's guards, who were Kael's spies, they've all been shish kebabbed on the walls. And it's like, oh no, our inside guys are dead. So actual guards escort them through the palace, but no one searches them for weapons. They make it into like the king's main chamber where Dorian is present. Dorian recognizes their faces, but the demon's like, ignore them. You don't know who they are. And Aelin is back pretending to be Lillian. She's like, I'm back as the king's champion. Here are the rings of the king and the crown prince of Wendelin. I've been abroad. I've done my job. I've come back off my holiday. And when I returned, Kael was waiting to attack me. Kael was waiting for me, and obviously I arrested him when I realized that he is a traitor. At this point, the king's like, babe, I know who you are. He sends all of his guards away and's like, let's stop pretending that Kael is a captive. So Aelin's like, where are the weird keys, king? And she's trying to keep him talking, knowing that Rowan and Avian should be blowing up the clock tower anytime soon. And the king reveals that he knows she's got that third weird key somewhere. And in order to get the location, he starts magically lashing Dorian in front of Kael and Aelin. And Kael tries to help him. He's like, please give me my friend back. My brother. My soul brother. Meanwhile, Rowan and Adrian are fighting these weird hounds down in the cellars. Like, they know they're behind schedule because the clock starts chiming noon and they're like, oh, we're meant to blow the tower up by now. Ayla reveals that she is wearing her Eye of Elena necklace and the king really wants it. She says, look, you'd better let Dorian go, otherwise I'm going to destroy this necklace and you will have no chance to free that evil demon Valg heroine. Like, I will scupper all your plans. I will destroy this necklace that would set him free. And Aelin takes off running. The king sends Dorian after her. The king's like, I'm not chasing you, Dorian. Go get a girl. But then he kind of second guesses. He's like, actually, I am going to follow. And Kael stops him. Dorian chases Aelin through the castle. And if you remember, it's like a stone castle that's then surrounded by glass. She climbs higher and higher, hoping that the tower's going to get destroyed soon. Because if Dorian's magic is ice, if Aelin has her magic back, hers is fire, they could probably have a magic fight. She jumps up onto a glass-covered bridge between two different castle towers. Meanwhile, Kael and the king fight, and let's just say, Kael does not win that fight. But Aelin and Dorian, they're battling what's basically an icy bridge up in the sky. He keeps trying to jog his memory, but the demon's still there. And he stabs her.